Well, hello everyone. Ivana Taylor here, and I'm here with Diane Curry Sam, who is our expert for the day, who's going to help us get our story straight. I don't know if you hear it, but I've got a terrible echo, so I'm going to make Diane do most of the talking today. So she says in her bio that it takes about 3 seconds to attract a new client. So anyone who's starving for clients, you got no excuse. So Diane, tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you're doing and what story has to do with anything.
Well, thanks, Ivana. Again, my name is Diane Curry Sam, calling in from Vancouver, BC. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'm a business story coach, so I'm a marketing and business coach for people. And I've been in the web development and marketing for about 25 years. I started out as I called myself the web girl back in the 90s. I can remember standing in front of thousands of people at a business conference, holding up a card saying, "This is an email address. It's going to replace the fax machine." So I was, a young 20-year-old kind of just all excited about this new technology, and, nobody knew who the heck I was or what I was talking about, but I've always had that vision of what communicating through technology can do. I mean, look at where we're at now. Isn't it? It's amazing, isn't it? Right? Like, amazing. So, but one of the things I learned as a marketer, and I started out, and the web was brand new, and people would tell me, "I want a website." So I'd be a consultant, and I'd say, "Okay, tell me what you want, about me page, this, give me your content, maybe give me a few sites that you like," and we would put together your basic website for people. They'd love it, they'd pay me, life would go on, right? What I would find out then maybe a year later or so, I'd look at their website, and all of a sudden everything was different. I'm like, what happened? We did what they asked us to do. They paid us. Everything seemed fine. Why is it all different now? And what I realized is I needed to go deeper into the core marketing of what this company was. That it was not satisfying for me any longer to be a work for hire, because I needed to be more of a marketing consultant. And like, really, let's go deep into this. Are you saying what you need to say? Are you developing yeah, I can take the content you give me and just put it up on a website, but is that really representing you? Is it the story that you want to tell? Is it compelling and consistent and deep and enough to really emotionally draw people? And that's why I say at the beginning, when you say you've got 3 seconds to get a new customer, you've got 3 seconds not to repel a customer. You know what I mean? Like, it might take you a little longer to make the sale, but you have 3 seconds not to turn them off. Because, sometimes there is too many options out there. If you're looking around the internet looking at a company that you might potentially do business with, and you look at their website and you're like, what? What are they saying? Who are they? You're not going to spend the time to read through someone's, even if they've put their heart and soul into it, if they haven't designed it in a way that's going to attract your attention. 3 seconds.
You are so right about that.
Yeah.
So right about that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've run into websites where I truly don't know what they're doing. And yet, it's clear that they think they know that they're there. So you say they have it backwards. What does that mean?
They have they have it backwards, yes. Well, most people, and this is what I learned from 25 years as a web girl, right, from way back when, is they do what I just described, is they start with a tactic or a strategy. So they've learned, I got to get new Facebook fans, or the newest thing, LinkedIn, I got to get people to kind of call, I got to be involved in groups on LinkedIn, or I got to have a YouTube video. They would come with these kind of ideas in mind that this is how they're going to market themselves, right? And then I would say to them, and then the next thing they would say is, okay, well, all right, well, what content do I need to develop for my video series or for my LinkedIn page or whatever, right? Then they'd think of the content. And later on, like maybe years down the road, they would really take a good hard look at their story, their theme, who they are, what their core messaging is, and what their core story that they're telling out in the world. That's backward. What they need to do is start with the story, dig deep into that, really understand it, then develop the content based on that, and then the content and the story will drive the marketing strategies.
I'm all about it. How do you start building a story?
Well, well, let's just start with those. Let's start with what people do wrong, okay?
Okay.
And then we'll start talking about the stories of how to do it right. So we can really kind of, let me talk about that, and then we'll talk about how to build the story, right? Because the story will come from, you got to look at what you have right now, okay, and figure out what's that 3-second thing, and then look at the story that's going. So I want to go through those 3 mistakes, okay, 3. I'm going to count them down from 3 to 1. So if anyone's listening to this live or on the recording, stick to the number 1. Stay to the end, because that's going to be really, it could change everything of how you look at things, okay? So number 3 is that when you look at their whole design of their website, they don't have what I call a design to convert strategy. So if anybody's taking notes, number 3 is design to convert. So they don't have that in place. So this is exactly what we're talking about, is when you look at the page, it's overwhelming, it's vague, it's confusing, or it's really pretty and artistic, but what are they doing? So you could have a nice visual design, even a nice layout and everything, but the content is kind of odd. Like, it's, who are these people? What are they up to? So they haven't designed to convert. So so let me tell you how to do that, okay? I'm going to give you some, again, this is not just about what you've done wrong, this is how to do it right, okay? So you want to give people a small number of clear choices. So design with that in mind. Don't give them, one of the websites I was looking at was, it was art brushes, you know, like paint brushes, and they had like 250 paintbrushes, and they all came up on like, okay, whereas another site had them categorized for certain types of, now I had no idea there was that many varieties of art paintbrushes, right? But they had them in particular categories. So you're limited number of choices. Do you want this kind of brush or this kind? If you do want this, go here. It's very designed like that. So be careful about the number of things that you have just cluttering up your pages. You want a visual anchor. So everybody talks about that icon at the top right of the screen. You want something that their eyes are going to go to, right? Even on a sales page, especially on a sales page, what's the visual? Where's the eye going to go immediately? Don't have too much, and have the one that you really want them to look at highlighted. Make sure that's number 1, right? And make sure you have, okay, now you can write this one down too. This is a passion of mine. A clear, unique selling proposition. A unique message that's really clear what's in it for them. What's in it for them. So just to give you an example, let's say you were selling, there's a project or a software system you're selling or something, right? And it says on the top, 30-day free trial, no credit card required. Like, it's just really, what is that, what is the main block to them signing up with you? Well, they're worried that they're going to have to put their credit card in. Okay, we've done that right at the top. One of them says or you're worried about how I'm going to get money back on this. So it says right at the top of the web page, pays for itself in 3 months or less. Here's our software. So it's like, it's right. Oh, okay. You notice that if you go to my website, which is beabetterstory.com, right at the front it says boost your business with story-based marketing. Okay. That's exactly what I do. It's really clear, that unique message of what you do. Go to MailChimp, you go to their site, it says send better email right at the front. Send better, simple, almost like a proverb. Exactly what you do. Like, don't confuse it. We do this, 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 and if you want to do this, later on, if you have multiple services, you can draw them into that, but try to have something very clear in your writing. Simplicity.
I'm all about it.
Simplicity, right? Like, you talk to a good defense lawyer, okay? Like, if the jury walks into the room with 10 things on their mind, they're not going to remember any of them, right? You want one thing that I don't know, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. Like the one little thing that's in their head, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about this one thing, right? You have to really strip your core idea down to its core. Get rid of anything extraneous. So if you're like me, I'm a business coach. I help people boost their business through story-based marketing. Other people will help. One of my mentors is Callan Rush, and she will say, fill your workshops. Fill your workshops, right? Like this is what they help you do. So there's that very simple, I will help you send better email. I will help you fill your workshop. I will help you boost your business. Like this is the kind of core idea, right? Especially for small businesses. It's not, you don't want to be doing a million things, right?
Absolutely. And not to get caught up, I think people get caught up in these fancy ad agency phrases that are nebulous, you know. That doesn't really work. One of the best things I've done is go to a trade show one year, and we put up a balloon that just said check valve. It worked.
Yeah.
You know, just bare bones.
Bare bones and simple and with a clear, understandable message. Like send better email.
Exactly. So that was number one. The thing they were doing wrong was not designing to convert.
Right.
And what you're telling them to do right is to have one simple message and design your site to convert.
Yes.
Excellent.
So then let's go on to the second big mistake. Okay, someone's writing this down. This is get out your pen time. So number two, they are seduced by social media.
Oh, yes.
Seduced by social media. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I am a big fan of social media, right? Like, look at what we're doing right now, this conversational media type of thing, right? But my primary goal with social is to direct people to areas where I can collect their information, where I can build a community around my content. See the difference? I'm not relying on Facebook or Google SEO or LinkedIn. Like let's not kid ourselves that these large companies care about your connections. If they can make money by, like, look at what Facebook did, right? Where how they changed their whole. Everybody spent all that time getting all those fans, and now your native fans, they see less than 10% of what you post, right? Look at Google
it's very
SEO
frustrating.
stuff. People spend millions of dollars, larger companies anyways, on getting to be number one on Google, and then all the algorithms will change.
Exactly.
So that's great if you're a large company, but you and I mainly deal with small business. And I really do not be seduced by that is my one answer is to be on this one platform. You want to create your own community. I was talking with a business owner one time, and he was telling me that they spent about $1 million on campaigns to increase their Facebook fans and increase their Twitter followers. And they had like a ton, but they've changed their whole. They've just stopped doing it because of what I just talked about. How they realize that even those fans are not generating.
Well, that's it. They're not. Which would you rather have, right?
Yeah. And
how does that go? 10 or 20% of 500 or 2% of 5,000 or whatever, where the name of the game in marketing is always to have that share of audience, share of attention. So you're always quality better than quantity always, right?
Right. And just think of what those millions could have been spent on content and media that's permanently owned by that company now, who can blog postings and video content and interesting sort of story-based interactive thing that they own, that's on their site. It can
Correct.
be used over. It's like intellectual property that can be used over and over and over again to draw people to them. Now, when I say seduced by social media, I use social media to distribute content and to draw people back in. Okay, so that seduction of I think I'm having lots of business because I'm going out there and chatting with everybody online and gathering fans and making.
I love your phrase, don't be seduced by social media, because the other thing that happens, and this goes right up to the very thing that you were talking about, where people get focused on the doing They get focused on, if I just get more fans, if I just do this, if I just do that. And I think they ignore your mistake number 3, which is do everything to convert.
Yes.
One of the favorite things I heard recently, now we all know this is true, but I don't know, somehow it hit me square between the eyes. A few months ago, a friend of mine said, you need to pay attention to where your sale happens. Does your sale happen online? Does it happen on the phone? Does it happen in a face-to-face conversation? And then all of your communication has to guide people to that magical place.
Exactly. You've nailed it right there, right? Let's not forget what we're in business for, right? We're in business for lots of reasons.
Right.
The crucial point of connection is that sale.
Exactly, and I think people get so it's funny with these two with the third mistake and the second mistake. The third mistake being, you get wrapped up in what the web design looks like and just throwing all kinds of copy up there. So you get wrapped up in that instead of having a design to convert. On the social media side, we get so wrapped up in generating conversations and I see this all the time, that these conversations have no purpose, and there is a delicate balance, right? Because then I do see people making the other mistake on social media, which is like selling, and I have a friend that just said something, another friend that said something like, when people aren't on Twitter to buy, people are on Twitter to read.
Yeah.
People are in Facebook, and now Facebook has adjusted this since we've had this conversation. I've actually bought things right out of my Facebook page, which is, but they put like really good targeted ads in there, so guilty, right? Yeah. But people are on Facebook to catch up with friends. People are on Twitter to read, and people go to eBay to buy stuff. That's just just like, if you're on eBay, that's what you're there to do.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And you have to know the purpose of your content, right? And the purpose of your content, know the purpose for every piece of content that you create, right? Do you want to get them onto your email list? Do you want to get them to answer some questions for you? Do you want to get them to buy? Like, there's a purpose behind everything, right? And let's not forget that exact moment, right?
Brilliant.
Right? So let's, and then the other thing that goes along with that is that their content management then is poor. So they focus all their information or all their work on, they're seduced by social media, they're running around doing this, they've forgotten that they really need to focus on really creating good content, and so they don't have content management. They don't know how many blog postings they ought to do every week. They haven't really thought that through. Am I going to do one a week? Am I going to do them whenever I feel like it? Do I have the right keywords kind of set up for that? Do I have a way of making sure it happens? How am I going to distribute my content? Let's have a system for all of that, right? Let's make sure that when you go to my website, the last date for the last blog posting is not 2012. It just looks bad, right? Like, if you're going to do something, how am I going to keep it up so that I'm constantly churning out good content in a way that's affordable and I can handle, right? Like we said at the beginning of the call, I'm not taking on everything, right? Let's set up a content creation system and management system that I can actually handle, okay? So they've forgotten about that key component. Okay, let's get on to the number 1. Okay, and this is where the story comes in. So what the number 1 mistake when they've built content is that they have no compelling narrative. It's not story-based. So they're doing the, I call that AKA, you've lost that love and feeling. They haven't moved from pure content to story-based content. So I could spend forever churning out those hints and tips documents, right, which have their place. That's fine, right? Get people interested, give them some good education. That's fine, right? But once I've educated them a little bit and I've drawn them into my circle, they want to get to know me. They want to get to know what my company is, what it stands for, how we came into being, who we work with, why we're in business. Content that educates and informs, but also evokes emotion and inspires. So my favorite poet, Maya Angelou, once said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. They will never forget how you made them feel. And that's where story comes in. And that content-based pieces are not shared as often as a good story.
Correct.
Let's face it, what do you share on your Google, on your Facebook page, on Twitter? You share, oh, this is a good story. Oh no, a child's trapped in a well. The whole village is trying to save them. They're all coming together. There's those kind of things that they get shared all over the place, all the time. The traumas, the emotionally impacting, like the Cinderella stories, where I had nothing and now I have this, and I was like, wow. That's inspirational.
I would like to ask you about a specific distinction, because you just said something a little bit ago, and I'm all about it. But one of the core elements of a great brand is having a strong point of view. Like you said, what do we stand for, right? So having a really strong point of view. How is that different from what you're talking about right now, which is telling a great story?
Well, I think a great story will help people understand your point of view.
Okay.
So let's say you have a strong point of view that people should always do this, or people are capable of much better. Let's say you're a weight loss coach, all right? So your point of view is that people are capable of change, and I really strongly believe that. And so you explain in your story is the reason I believe that is because I spent 30 years overweight, and I never thought I was capable of change, and I was overweight since the time I was 7 years old, and I thought, and then I learned I can overcome that, right? So that's why I have that really strong point of view. So don't tell me people can't change, because I know they can. It's that strong, oh, okay. Otherwise, if I just say, well, I really believe this, people are like, well, there's no context to it.
Got it.
The story will give the context to the point of view. Like, I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, you need to stand for something. Don't be boring, right? But if you're going to stand for, especially if you're going to stand for something a little outside the norm, then you need a story to really explain to people why I'm a little bit outside the status quo, which I love, right? But the story will give it context.
Oh, I'm really glad that we spent a little extra time talking about that, because I think people really don't understand that. They really struggle. They think that having a platform or a point of view might be good enough. I'm a big advocate of that. But at the same time, I think, and this is, I guess, going to get us into the story element of, actually, this is a conversation I was just having with someone else. This idea, I heard someone say, to really, that one thing that you're most ashamed about, or that one thing you don't want to tell anybody, is probably exactly what you should be talking about.
Yeah. Yes.
When it comes to one of those stories, and people are so attracted to that.
Yes, yeah, they are. And what you're talking about in terms of the point of view is often referred to as a turning point story, or a core story, or about the hero type story, where you're talking about, you can go out, and I could stand here in front of you and say, well, I have a master's degree in psychology, I have 25 years in business, I have these awards, and I can tell you all about my credentials and my authority, and there's a part of you that might be, kind of impressed, but there's also a part of you that might be, well, a little intimidated, or a little, why is she so pushing her authority on me, right? But if I tell you a story, you're going to see both sides of me. You're going to see the emotional, that I'm just like you, I'm just a person, I've learned through these things, I've struggled. You're going to be relate to me, and then you can also see my I have I have the authority to I'm capable, I know what I'm saying, right? Like, so a story will help to really weave that in. If you just start with your quote resume, it can kind of sometimes come across, especially in a speaking engagement, or or something you've published on the internet. It can be very, oh my gosh, I could never work with her. She's way here, and I'm just here. I'm just starting out. I don't have 25 years experience in web design. I don't have, it's like there's a connection. The story will bring it in both. It will bring it together. And you talked about sort of structuring a story. What that is a transformational story.
Mm.
My life was great. Or no, actually, that's kind of overcoming story. My life was great. Something bad happened. Everybody relates to me now, and I learned this particular thing, and now it's great.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, so much to talk about, right? The first thing I want to do is give everyone a great example. When I was in New York at the entrepreneur event, Barbara Corcoran was there to speak. So if anyone watches Shark Tank, then you've seen Barbara Corcoran. And she stood up, and the other thing she did, which I totally loved, is she actually had little index cards, like back in the day. She had little index cards, and wonderful slides, and she absolutely brought us into her life to the point where I really had exactly this experience you're talking about. You know, you see her on TV, you see her, you know, whatever. She's a speaker. She's, you know, ooh. And when she got up and told her story, she had that entire audience in the palm of her hand.
Yeah.
I actually left that entire presentation, and now when I watch her on TV, I actually can see that she does have a soft heart for certain things, you know, and I definitely get where that's coming from. So that just really resonated with me, having you explain it that way, of how the story can actually connect you with people and how different that is from your point of view.
Yes, it's so different. If she'd have got up there and just said, well, I'm Barbara Corcoran, here's what I've done, like I've accomplished this, I've made this much money, everybody would have been like, okay, interested, but not, like you said, not emotionally really open to receiving what she had to say and what her message was, right?
And she left that audience feeling like, oh, she didn't do anything magical. Yeah. Although it kind of seems like she did, but
yeah.
You know. But the way she said it, it was like, you would do this too. If you were in my situation, you would have done it too. You know?
That's, you know, and you've really hit that. That's what a story will do. It will allow you to put yourself as a character in someone else's story.
Yeah.
Pretty powerful, right? And that's what you need to create. You need to get your potential customers and potential clients to think of themselves as in your, oh, I could be in that story. I could be part of that, right? That's where that connection comes on. Right?
So that I know I'm kind of going off our predefined questions, but I am so engaged in what you're talking about, right? So I want you to talk about, you've already sort of mentioned it, right? You said there's the transformation story, right? The hero story. Talk a little bit about some of those general categories of stories that there are.
Okay, now you've hit my nerdiness here, so it's all going to come out, right?
Yay!
Okay, so we have another type of story that's good in business is the rags to riches story.
Of course.
Okay, so that would be
like Corcoran's story, the rags to riches.
Yeah. Oprah Winfrey's a good example of that. I don't know if you know Laurel Langmeyer, who does money coaching. It's like, I was this poor child. I worked the fields. I was in a situation, but I didn't belong in. There was something different about me. I was in this depressed area, and now I worked my way up. It's just very the rags to riches type story. There's the overcoming story, and that's the one I touched on earlier, where life was good. I had to overcome something really bad, like something bad happened to me. I got cancer. I went through bankruptcy. And then I overcame that. So there's that kind of overcoming the monster, it's called in literature, those types of stories. There's the quest. Yes. That's like like the Hobbit. That's in the movie theaters now, right? They're on a quest. They want to reclaim that mountain for the dwarf world, right? Totally nerdy. I'm into it.
Yeah, I'm into it. It's all good.
The wizard shows up. And he says, I'm calling you forth. There's people that are in something that needs done, and you go out on a lawn, and all these adventures happen to you. But there's an end goal, right? And often people who have a mission-based company, like let's say they want to improve nutrition in the world, or they want to get, or even more political, they want to get rid of GMOs, or there's a real mission, there's a real quest. Like it's a business, but we have this quest we're going on. You want to set that up as the moment I realized somebody needed my help and I had to step up
Mm.
business. We had to step up and do something about it. We created this business, and this is our quest. So
Nice.
there's that quest story, right? There's one that's similar to the quest, and that's the journey and return. So that would be, I was called forth on this journey. I learned all these things, and now I'm coming back to tell you.
Mm.
And in some ways, that's kind of the story I'm telling you right now, right? Remember, I said I was this web girl. I did a lot of work for hire. I went out there and I tried to build this marketing company, and then I realized I had to do things better. I realized I had to understand the story. I realized I needed to, and then I learned all this, and now I'm back telling you how to do that. So it's not like I'm telling you about some big tragedy that happened to me.
Right.
That was an overcoming story. It's more like I journeyed and I've returned to the regular world to tell people all the things I did wrong and all the things I learned on this journey, right? So there's those types of stories which are just as valid too, right? Oh yeah. So those just and then there's the comedy.
That one? We don't hear that one too often. Maybe that's mine.
It doesn't. Comedies don't necessarily work as well in business, because what they tend to be is that things are all messed up in this. Like if you look at Shakespearean now I'm totally. If you look at Shakespeare comedies, right? It's like people are in disguise. They're marrying the wrong person. There's something wrong in the whole community. All these crazy things are happening, and then there's a little intervention, and then everybody ends up in a hilarious way, kind of, oh, I've married the right person now, and oh, I'm actually this person in disguise, and it's kind of craziness, right? So comedies, I don't know, they're often the businesses that are just don't do so well because they're kind of like, oh my god.
So here's another question that I have that I'm curious about, and I wonder if our audience has too, and that is, how do I say this? So you've talked about these different categories of stories, and as you were talking, I was sort of thinking, oh, if I were to tell my story, which would it be, right? And I'm like, it's not the, the transformation, like, I wasn't fine, so, well, I could say that, right? There we go, right? There's almost feels like I have a story for every category. How do you find the story that's right for you, or how do you find that?
Well, that's really, I do help people with that, right?
Is that what you help them with? Huh?
Yeah, I do. And it's like I talked about, it's the point of digging deep into it, not just kind of, it's not going to happen in a 5-minute conversation. Like, hey, Vanna, oh, this is you, right? I would go through a series of questions with you, find out a little bit more about the core message of what you're trying to do, why you started this business in the first place, and then from there, and your life story and your business story, and then from there, kind of see, okay, which one really kind of works? Like, because don't forget, I'm a marketer, I'm a business person, right? So there's going to be ones that are going to work to convert more people over into your community, right? So that, like what I talked about with my story, that kind of journey and return, that kind of works, because that's telling people that, hey, I went out and did all these things wrong, and you don't have to. So that might be you as well as a marketer. You might have done all these things marketing that you learned along the way. I don't know. I'd have to spend a little time finding out about your business and who you are, right? Because one of them will fit. Right. And you can also have the theme of your story might be different than the theme of your customer story, for example. Sure. So that's the other thing I talk about with people, is that you have to have, I say, 5 key stories in your business that you're telling. You can't just, if you go to someone's website or to their marketing materials, and sometimes you'll find they're talking all about themselves. Right. And they never mention about their customers.
Well, there's an art to that, isn't there? And I think people are, there's this beautiful art which is talking about yourself while actually talking to your customer. Like somehow they're engaged in it too.
Yes, and that's partly because you're telling a well-crafted story. It's not just me, 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 me. It's why this is important to you, right? Like, I'm not telling you all about my husband and my children and my this and my dogs and my this and why I live in BC and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm telling you about my business story and what I did. That's important to people who might consider working with me. It gives them the context. But what I'm talking about is, if I just continue to talk about me, 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 even my story, and never told you about what happens to people when they work with me. The transformations that my customers go through. Like, I had this lady that I worked with, and she was a vet, and she did this, and her marketing was not really attracting anyone, and then we worked together, and by the time she was done, she had, like, I'm telling you, this transformation of who I'm not just a little snippet of a testimonial. It's a real story of what I went through from her perspective. That's why you have to really look at it very holistically when you're looking at someone's marketing. Are they hiding behind their products and services and just talking about their products and not about them, or vice versa? They're talking on and on about themselves and no mention of the transformations that go on with their customers and their why they chose those products, those kind of stories. So I work with people and we go through these. Are you telling about your customers? Are you telling a good story about yourself? Are you telling a good story about your business? The supporting characters, the setting, the customers, I call them the damsels in distress, right? The people that you're saving, the villagers that you're running to save, like as the who are they, right?
Right.
And of course, the products and services story, the pitch, like why should I work with you? You can tell a good sales pitch in a very story-based format that, now I get it, right?
Right.
So, I hope that guy right at the very beginning.
That was absolutely perfect. I love that, and I'm really glad you shared it the way you did, because actually a lot of my audience is small. I call them Main Street businesses. Main Street businesses with infrastructure, right? And talk about a story, and I actually happen to live in a little Norman Rockwell town. We have a square and a gazebo and little retailers all around, but you drive just a mile up the road and that's where all the chains are, right? And unfortunately a lot of our small business owners have the story that I can't compete with the chains, and yet the story right there is the very reason your customer will choose you. We have one of these old original hardware stores, Diane. It's like they still have that cash register with the numbers that plop up. It's been there since the 1800s, and it's been in the family, and it's been passed down. And my goodness, if you want something, we wanted to do those little sandwich presses. You're not going to find that at Home Depot. Right? You're going to find that at this local place, and there's a story there. So I really wanted to make sure that our listeners got what you were saying about how powerful a story is, and not to hide behind it, because a lot of guys are, and I specifically mentioned guys because I think women might go to one extreme and men will go to the other extreme. And a lot of my male audience that is running, let's say, an IT company or a manufacturing company, I see it all the time with my clients. They hide behind the parts.
Oh, yes, they do.
And I keep wanting to tell them, the story behind this thing you created is so powerful.
So interesting. I love business. I'm telling you, like even the real techie kind of boring paintbrushes or parts department, like I find it interesting how they all came together, because I love stories, right? Why they're there. The same thing you talked about, that hardware store, I'll go out of my way to a store that I think is interesting, that I think I can connect to. Like I would go to that hardware store. I would chat with them. I would be interested to find out. And I'm not the only one, right? So the thought that you can't compete with the chains, I agree with you, and I'd like to just say to anyone listening, if you've had that thought, just let it go.
Absolutely. There's no way, it's the other way around. They can't compete with you.
Exactly. They can't compete with you, because you are going to have a story that's so compelling and so interesting, and you're going to market it so well. And it's exactly, enthusiastic for those people, right? Like
exactly. So
yeah.
I don't know if I've strayed so far from our conversation guide. We wanted to talk about, I mean, I think we've really addressed a lot, and maybe you can supplement with what we missed, why story-based marketing is important. People, if you have not gotten it through this conversation, I don't know what more there is to say. Is there more to say about why story-based marketing is so important?
Well, it's exactly what I mean, I could just summarize what I've already said because I think we've really nailed it. It's that emotional connection. It's that ability to tell a complete story. If I had to, like, I have a degree in counseling psychology, okay? And my whole thing was on the power of the narrative. Mm-hmm. And the human being will put themselves into a story. That is actually how our brains and our psychology works. We will go to sleep and be bored very quickly if someone's just giving us a bullet point kind of rational. We need that a little bit, but then we need a story. So we can't, it's just the way the human mind works. Look at the media out there. Look at the stories that get spread around. All of these dramatic stories where things are happening. Like if I told you about my boring middle class life, you'd be like, yeah, okay. You want to see the kind of, wow, that happened. That's unexpected. That's interesting. What happened there? Think of us sitting around like the cavemen and women did not sit around the campfire texting each other.
Obviously.
They told stories. They said, hey, come on, grab a chair, sit down. Let me tell you what happened. Did I ever hear about the one about this? Ghost stories and urban legends. I mean, those things get passed around because they've got drama and intrigue. And if you want to, you got to be like a urban legend, like a ghost story, something that, oh my goodness, that's interesting. Tell me more about that, right? It was unexpected. It was funny. It was interesting, and it was a story. Human mind thinks about stories. And what you talked about earlier, even that thing about how people have that story in their mind that I can't compete with the big box retailers. That's a story that they've put themselves in as a character. I'm a character in a story, and my role is to be the poor, small little business that's overtaken by this big, and they put them. You can change that story too, and I'm getting into a real deeper level here about the psychology of it.
Sure.
But you don't need to tell that story either, right? You can tell a completely different story. I'm the diamond in the rough, right? I'm the amazing little best kept secret of my town. You can change all that around by even just your mentality, but
and you are getting deep, but so powerful, right? Because I hope that people can see how this all connects. Because once you've decided on the story that you tell, you start living into it. You can create any story you want, and you will start living right into it. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I love this because you've unveiled my secret sauce.
Sorry.
You've unveiled my secret sauce. Yes, and that's the future story. I wasn't going to mention that. Usually I mention that after they've worked with me for a little while, but you've unveiled it, so let's talk about it. That's the one I never mentioned. There's a future story you can tell too. So you can tell all these 5 that I just talked about. Then you can kind of create a future story. Like, what is your business going to be like in 20 years from now? What impact will you have made on your community?
For those of our listeners who are much more traditional in nature and think they're not into what I call #woo-woo.
Yep.
Do you know what we call the future story in business school? Vision.
And mission, right? Vision and mission. Yeah, exactly.
So anyone who's thinking this is like wacko out there, not really.
No, it's not, because what happens is you paint a vision, a story-based vision, and you can actually say, it's 2025, we've been in business for 10 years, the impact we've made on this community has been amazing because we've changed how people do this, and we've done that. Like, you paint this future story, which is kind of your vision, and then anybody who works for you, anybody, your suppliers, anybody investing in you, people that you need to influence, they're going to put themselves into that. I see. It's a vision. You're right. It's a vision and a mission. but it's in a story, and it makes it
It's
even
in a
more
story
compelling.
because we all know that visions and missions, as typically written, are ridiculously boring.
Yeah.
And hence somebody would have to work with you to get a really cool one.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So I don't have the secret sauce to that, people.
No, that's what I mean. It requires some thought. It requires some thought, and it requires, the other thing that I always say, a story is a verbal phenomenon. I need to listen to you. I need to engage with you and find out who you are. That we need to talk. We need to engage, like what we're doing right now in this conversation, right? So getting that future story out, which is a really powerful kind of second level that I do with people, is because we've engaged with each other. We can see we can kind of pull that out. I had one of my clients say to me, Diane, you're a great storyteller, but you're a great story puller. And I liked that, right? That I can pull out, like you asked me, what would my story be? Would it be this, this, and this, right? Well, we don't know. It has to be kind of pulled out from you and figured out from a business point of view how that's all going to fit in, right?
Sure.
Again, I get excited.
I know, stories are so powerful. So now that we've covered everything, even tease them with the secret sauce, where can people go to find out more?
Well, I'm going to put a URL out. It's called tinyurl.com/honesttruthweb. So I'll put that in the chat right there. People can, oh, that's not it. And people can go there and download it. It's a web assessment.
Those are fun. I have one. I love web assessments. How cute is that? What is it going to tell us?
It's going to tell you, first of all, do you have a good social media website? It's going to assess that a little bit. It's sort of a checklist. And then it's going to go and ask you some questions about, okay, I put that in the chat room. So people can go to that. There it is. Okay, and I'll verbally say it again. It's tinyurl.com/honesttruthweb. All one word.
Here. I know where it needs to go. I'm going to pull it here again.
Oh, perfect.
I will pull it and stick it in our little room.
Great.
Here we go. Take the, whoops, I don't spell very well.
So it's tinyurl.com/honesttruthweb.
There we go.
And
excellent.
It's a two-part web assessment tool. You know, is your website kind of repelling people? Have you kind of got that 3-second thing okay? And then are you telling a good story? So my suggestion with people is take a look at that, check off the list. It kind of explains what in there about how to kind of grade yourself or assess what you've got. And then there's also an offer there to sign up for a discovery session with me where we'll discover your business story. Now, I only have a limited number per month, but I love to talk to people. I love to find out about businesses. So get your name in there if you want that. That's as a special thank you for people who come to your session, who are, your tribe, right? To thank them for listening. I have that special offer this month going on too. So download that. At the bottom, there's a link where you can sign up for that session. Very powerful stuff.
Perfect. Well, I hope that, everyone is really, really inspired by this and really kind of, go back and watch this session all over again and really kind of think about what your story is. I know that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to download my little checklist and see how I'm doing. And you guys do the same. Diane, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's lovely talking to you. Exciting stuff.